Have you ever had a quiet voice inside whisper, "This isn't right, yet you stayed," smiled, and called it love? Have you ever dressed up dysfunction in the language of care because it was easier than facing the truth? We've all been there, rationalizing red flags, rewriting reality, and shrinking ourselves to preserve connection. But what if the true source of your emotional pain isn't what was done to you, but what you've silently allowed? This isn't a video about blame, it's about clarity. This is your mirror. This is where illusions dissolve. Carl Jung didn't write to soothe. He wrote to awaken. He believed that what we fail to make conscious will rule our lives, and we will call it fate. Today, we walk alongside Jung's insights to uncover 10 subtle but soul-eroding behaviors that you should never tolerate. Not because you're weak, but because you're worthy. This video isn't just information, it's transformation. Before we dive in, make sure you're subscribed to Cyphoria. Here we explore what most ignore the hidden truths of your inner world. Let's begin. 1. Emotional manipulation disguised as love. It starts quietly. Maybe they guilt you when you say no, or they sulk when you set a boundary. Suddenly, you're walking on emotional eggshells but calling it being understanding. Jung taught that the soul becomes ill when its truth is denied. Emotional manipulation does just that. It erodes your instinct to protect yourself. Over time, it convinces you that your needs are selfish, that asserting yourself is unkind. But love doesn't demand that you betray yourself to be accepted. True love honors your boundaries. Manipulation confuses you into believing that self-abandonment is connection. If someone's love leaves you feeling small, ashamed, or unsure of your own feelings, it's not love. It's emotional control dressed in empathy's clothing. 2. Contempt masked as honesty. I'm just being honest. If those words are used like a blade, not a bridge, it's not honesty. It's veiled cruelty. Jung believed the human personality needs affirmation to grow, not erosion. When truth becomes a vehicle for contempt, it's no longer about connection. It's about control. Real honesty is tender. It speaks with care. When someone consistently criticizes you under the guise of being real, they're not building intimacy, they're establishing dominance. Over time, this disguised cruelty chips away at your confidence. You stop expressing, you start second-guessing, and before long you begin to shrink to fit their comfort. 3. Control packaged as care. They say, "I just want what's best for you," but somehow it always means giving up what you want. Control often wears the mask of protection. But as Jung warned, the shadow projects itself as authority when it's really afraid. Real love doesn't clip your wings. It helps you fly. If you're being told how to think, feel, or act under the banner of care, pause. Ask yourself, is this love or is it fear disguised as guidance? When someone limits your freedom, your passions, or your autonomy in the name of protecting you, they're not loving you, they're managing you. 4. Gaslighting, the quiet war in reality. Gaslighting doesn't scream. It whispers until you can no longer trust your own thoughts. Jung once said, everything that irritates us about others can lead to an understanding of ourselves. But when your emotional compass is constantly rewritten by someone else, you are not being guided, you're being dismantled. Gaslighting is psychological warfare. Over time, it disconnects you from your own memory, your feelings, and even your truth. You become dependent on the one causing the distortion to interpret reality. And that is the most dangerous illusion of all. 5. Dismissing your inner world. You share a dream and they laugh. You speak your passion and they roll their eyes. You express vulnerability and they minimize it. When your inner world is consistently invalidated, your spirit doesn't just retreat, it withers. Jung emphasized that integration of the authentic self is essential for wholeness. If someone mocks your light every time you try to shine, you're not in a relationship, you're in emotional exile. Dismissal doesn't always scream. Sometimes it just sighs, shrugs, and makes you feel like your truth is too much. 6. Lack of empathy. Empathy is what bridges two souls. Without it, intimacy becomes a monologue, not a dialogue. When someone constantly overlooks your pain, invalidates your feelings, or makes your needs seem like a burden, you're not being loved. You're being drained. Jung knew that true connection requires vulnerability. If your emotional world is constantly dismissed, you begin to question if your emotions even matter. Over time, you lose touch with yourself. You forget that you deserve to be seen. 7. Repeated betrayals wrapped in apologies. They hurt you, they say sorry, then they do it again. Apologies without change aren't growth, they're manipulation. Jung believed that behavior repeated over time is no accident. If someone continues to betray your trust, they're not struggling. They're choosing. When you stay in this cycle, you begin to equate betrayal with forgiveness and love with endurance. But you are not here to endure. You are here to thrive. 8. Selfishness disguised as independence. Healthy independence nurtures connection. Toxic independence avoids accountability. If you're always initiating, reaching out, or compromising, while they retreat behind walls of "I'm just private" or "I need space," you're not in balance. You're in emotional poverty. Jung would call this a collapse of reciprocity, a failure to meet the other at the soul's bridge. Don't mistake emotional starvation for strength. 9. Sarcasm as a weapon. It sounds like a joke, but it lands like a wound. Sarcasm, when used habitually, becomes passive aggression. It masks hostility behind humor. But Jung noted that what we repress becomes projection. Sarcasm often hides the resentment that can't be spoken. If jokes make you feel small, it's not humor. It's humiliation wrapped in laughter. 10. Emotional withdrawal as punishment. Silence can be healing, but silence as punishment is violence. When someone withdraws affection, ignores your messages, or becomes cold to assert control, they're not seeking peace. They're asserting dominance. Jung describes such behavior as regression, a collapse into the shadow. This emotional distance creates confusion where there should be clarity, fear where there should be safety. It's the silent treatment, the unanswered messages, the cold shoulder used as a blade. And every time you chase them, you lose a little more of your sense of worth. You begin to believe that invisibility is the price of love. But here's the truth: Carl Jung didn't teach us to hate those who wound us. He taught us to recognize what we've tolerated so we can stop calling it love. These behaviors, they may feel familiar. They may even feel normal. But normal does not mean healthy. Every time you excuse what hurts you, teach your soul to settle. But your soul was never meant to shrink. It was meant to breathe. Healing begins with naming, with saying, "This is not love. This is manipulation. This is not honesty. This is humiliation. This is not protection. This is control. And most importantly, this is no longer mine to carry." You are not overreacting. You are awakening. And that, dear soul, is the beginning of everything. If this message stirred something in you, comment below with the words, "I choose clarity over chaos." And don't forget to subscribe to See Furioa, where deep reflection and emotional renewal are honored. You deserve to be seen, heard, and held not just by others, but by yourself. We'll see you in the next video.